Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me thank you for being here. The stories on this podcast are meant to let you know that you're not alone in what you're going through and that we can all find strength in struggle with the right perspective. If you've been enjoying the podcast, let me ask that you leave a review on your platform of choice to help us grow so that we can continue to make the world a better place, one conversation at a time. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to the Project Endure podcast, episode 130. We have myself, Joe Rinaldi, and we have a very, very, very special guest in the great state of New Jersey, Sarah Martoni. Sarah, how are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I am doing so well, and I've been looking forward to this. It's interesting how this happened. Jerry Ike, who is a previous guest on the podcast and a friend of mine, knows you and reached out to me and said, hey, if you haven't already, you should have Sarah on the podcast. And so I didn't know what Sarah he was talking about. I'd already connected with a Sarah through Alpha Fit Club, so I thought I had already talked to the Sarah. And then I went to your page when he gave me your page, and you looked so familiar. And then when we texted, you asked me, hey, did you ever work at this PT clinic before? And it clicked for me that when I was a student at Parabolic Physical Therapy, you were receiving treatment, and I didn't really know your story. And now, all these years later, I get to find out what your story is all about. So I'm super excited.
I know, it was a total circle moment. It was absolutely insane. I was like, this is crazy.
So I want to hear about that. And I'm going to ask you about the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle in life, and we'll get to that. But before we do, how would you introduce yourself to the audience if they don't know who you are?
I'm Sarah Martoni, as you know. I am a ex-professional hockey player, ice hockey, and I am currently a head coach at Alpha Fit Club in Wayne, as well as working at Alpha Fit Club in Verona as well. So I'm a group trainer, personal trainer, a little bit of everything, but yeah.
So when we first crossed paths, it would have been, I want to say 2018, 2019, in that
Yes.
time range. And so were you still playing professional hockey at that time?
So I was not actually, or I played after that time. So I was playing overseas in 2018 for a tournament, and that's when my injury occurred. And I found myself in Parabolic meeting you. And yeah, that's kind of when everything kind of happened and my life kind of flipped around.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in, and I'll ask you, is that the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle, that season of injury?
Oh, easily, hands down. One of the hardest, probably will be the hardest thing in my life that I've have to encounter, and hopefully not have to handle anything like that ever again.
Okay, so let's rewind. Take me back to the beginning, or even before the beginning of when that injury happened, so we have context, and then just tell us the story.
All right, so throwing back, I've been playing ice hockey since I was probably 9, 10 years old. I grew up in Montclair, New Jersey, played all over the state of New Jersey, all over the East Coast, all over that. Went to boarding school at age 16 in Lake Placid, New York, and proceeded with my career. Continued on. Fast forward, I'll just bring it up to like 2018. I was overseas, like I said before. We were playing a tournament, and just a weird hit. We were playing Spain and went into the corner the weird way, and further enough from the boards that things got weird and bad and just went down and never got back up. And what ended up happening, I got 3 herniated, and I had a contusion to my kidney, and I got diagnosed in Czech Republic in Prague. So after that, I flew home, was trying to proceed with outpatient because I was at a very young age. I was 20, 21, 22 years old at that time. And anything back related surgical terms of a 21, 22-year-old they try to stay away from, of course. And then one night I drank water and it went down like weirdly and I coughed super hard. And then my disc went fully through my nerve in my L4, L5, S1 range, the lower spine, and I became paralyzed instantly from the waist down. Then went to emergency surgery. They did a minor or partial disc removal. Um, Unfortunately, that didn't work. So I woke up and my legs were still, couldn't feel anything at all. I ended up having a blood clot in my spine. So within that 24 hours, I went back into surgery yet again and still woke up in my whole left leg. So about my left knee all the way down, had no movement, foot drop, nothing up, nothing down, no feeling at all. I carried on doing PT. I was in inpatient actually at Kessler in West Orange, New Jersey, and was there for a significant amount of time. Changed my life in the best way possible, meeting those people that I met at that facility, and just kind of like gave you that light of everything because those people, I'm very thankful and very grateful that I got to walk out of there. But unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of people that will not. And in reality, those are probably the most happy people in the world. Life was so simple. They see the happiness in the littlest things, and it just was very eye-opening to me. And it took me a little bit of time to realize that going through all those mentally struggling days during that whole entire time. After that, I was still in Kessler, still couldn't walk. I actually checked myself out of it because I was mentally drained. Um, they were like, well, you can check yourself out, but you got to climb a flight of stairs. Kind of hobbled up some stairs, bit the tongue, and really didn't know how I got up there at that point in time, but I needed to get home. I threatened my mom. I was like, I'm going to Uber myself home tonight. Like, I can't do this anymore. I need to go home. And I think at that point in time, I was there for like 2 months, almost a month and a half. So I was just mentally drained. And then I found parabolic yet again. And that's when I was doing outpatient. And I was there for probably 4, 5, 6 days a week, honestly. And that was like the light in my day, honestly, because I would be home. I couldn't do much, couldn't bend, couldn't twist, couldn't move. And I was like, oh my God, I get to go to PT now. So I get to see good people, great surroundings, and made great friendships from it that kind of like saw the light in day. So I proceeded doing PT and still didn't see any change, didn't see anything. Went to a bunch of other different spinal surgeons all over New York, New Jersey area, and I met one actually from like my previous life of figure skating back when I was younger, and she was like, "This doctor is going to give you your life back," and I was like, I needed to believe her, so I believed her, and I went to this doctor in the city, and he did a fusion to my spine in April of 2018, and I woke up from that surgery and I felt my foot again for the first time in almost, I was paralyzed for about a year and 2 months.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so, okay, I have so many questions. And before we keep going, because I'm sure there's more to this from that point to current day, but when you go back to that cough, right? You had some water, took a drink of water, like we all do every single day, and in a moment, it sounds like you were paralyzed from the waist down. Do you remember what went through your mind in that moment when you understood what was happening?
I think I'm a big adrenaline rush type of person. I think it didn't click into my head until I like got there and was laying in like a hospital bed and kind of realizing like this is real. Like this is not a joke. This is not a like, oh, maybe I'm okay. Like I really cannot feel anything. Like this is why is this happening to me? And it was like a freight train, honestly, that just came right at me.
Mm.
So it was, oh my God. In the moment, I still got like chills at that point in time. I'm just talking about it because I would never want anyone to actually go through what that felt like.
So in that moment and in that season, you were grieving the loss of what you knew to be your physical relationship with the world. I'm sure there were many moments, if not many weeks and months and a year plus, where you were unsure if you'd ever be able to do the things that you once did. Not even play hockey, but just go up and down a flight of stairs the same way that you had taken for granted, I'm sure, like we all do
Every day.
our whole life, right?
Literally going to the bathroom on my own, walking down the stairs, like anything. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
And so from those moments, those lows, I'm imagining, to where you are today, it sounds like you have such a positive outlook on life and even positive outlook on parts of, if not all of this experience in hindsight. Um, but what was the transition like from the lows to right now? How did you get yourself out of those mental ruts that I'm sure happened throughout the entire process?
So a couple conversations that like stuck with me during this whole entire time. I was actually like in pre-op. I was laying on the bed and this man was laying next to me, like he was going to the operating room, another operating room. We were just sitting there and like I looked disheveled as could be. And he was just looking at me and he was like, this he told me his story. He was getting his leg cut off for some reason. And I was like, he was smiling from ear to ear. I'm like, this man is literally about to go into an operating room, get his leg cut off, and he's smiling. And he looked at me and he goes, tough times don't last, tough people do. And to this day, that's literally I mean, it's everyone use it. It might be like a cliche quote, but I'm like, this man, he's right. Like it's this not gonna last. I still got it. In sports, you play to the last whistle, and that's how life is. And you keep going till your last breath, and you have the opportunity, you have the choice, and it's what you make out of it in reality. And I think that was just like a light and click in my head that I'm like, okay, this is it. Whatever is coming, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but in reality, it's control the controllable, and I'm driving my own bus in this situation. So I think that that was the big thing that I kept saying in the back of my head, like just tough times don't last, tough times don't last, and I got this. And it's just the little things that you tell yourself that you then perceive in your actual life that will go a lot further.
That's amazing. And so you go into that surgery, and if I have the timeline correct, that surgery resulted in you still not being able to
Yes,
fully
a
feel your
negative
leg. Right?
outcome.
So you go into it with this rush of positivity, and you come out and things haven't changed. What happens
Exactly.
next in terms of the mindset component?
So this is when I hit a roadblock. And the doctor actually told me, he looked at me and he goes, Sarah, the things that you're gonna be able to do in life are gonna be large, but the things that you're gonna have to learn to do differently are gonna be even larger. So that's when I was like, okay, game on. Like, don't tell me what I can and can't do. I get it that you're going by the scientific term of the human body, but you don't know me. You don't know what I'm capable of. And now I have someone to prove wrong. So that's what I mean, the athlete mindset that kicked into me. And I'm thankful for sports to the day I die because I feel like that's what got me through a lot of these things is it was like the game mindset that things are hard and just keep plugging through it and control it when you can. And when you can't, just find that control that you can control.
I am so curious to hear your take on the life lessons that hockey, in specific, has taught you. Because 2 episodes back, episode 128, I had on Julia Ashley, who is a professional soccer player retiring from professional soccer, also suffered an L4, L5, S1 disc herniation injury. And we talked about some of the life lessons that she learned from the sport of soccer, and they were really profound. I'm curious for you, because soccer and hockey to me have a lot of similarities. What are some of the lessons maybe that you've taken from the sport of hockey?
I think that the sport of hockey is one of the most beautiful things in the world, but I also think that it's one of the most difficult, especially being like a male dominant sport, especially like being a girl of color. I had everything against me and I had to learn a lot of things at a young age that I didn't even want like I in the world. I had to grow up very quickly.
Mm.
I think that there's also a lot of controversial political views in sports and youth hockey and everything like that. So that was another battle that I had to grow up quickly and understand and articulate that not everything's gonna be handed to you. And I think that as I got older, I kind of turned into lessons. But at a young age, you just kind of think everything's against you. But I think that sports in general are the most resourceful thing that any child could ever do. Like I was not a schoolgirl. I literally got through school probably because I played hockey. Like that's my mom was like, if you don't go to school, you're not going to hockey. So that's what it was. And like in reality, I was at the rink at 5 a.m. in the morning and then I'd be up. So guess I'm going to school now. And then I'd be back at the rink when I left school. So it's like, I think the lessons that you learn in your life are the little things that come from the game and the sports that people are playing.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I would agree with that. And I have a quote from Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest hockey players of all time,
For
who
sure.
said, "A good hockey player plays where the puck is. A great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be." And that anticipation, I'm sure, is something you've learned from the sport of hockey. How did that anticipation and playing where the puck is going to be come into play, if at all, through the rehab process for you?
I mean, it's such a fast-paced game and kind of having your head on the swivel. Like I was a defenseman in hockey, so when you play defense, you're taught to never let anyone behind you. So you always have your head on the swivel. You always like see the outside the bigger picture. And I think that's perceived in life too. Like have your head on the swivel, never let anyone behind you, and always keep your feet moving. And
Mm.
that's exactly what the sport and life, those little things that I've learned from that.
Mm. So if we fast forward to you have the fusion surgery, you're able to get some of that sensation back. What happens from there, and how do you literally and figuratively keep your feet moving from that point on?
I mean, I owe 90% of my mental and my physical health to my PT, Alex, at Parabolic, the GOAT. He's amazing.
Yes.
And he was literally probably my therapist during that whole entire time too. So shout out to Alex. But I think that through that whole situation, and after I kept going, like I actually got certified as a personal trainer in the hospital bed. So when I was in the hospital bed, I was getting my NASM and I was just going through the whole thing. I'm like, listen, if I'm here, I'm not going to just sit here and watch Netflix all day. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm bored. People visit me. Like, I need to do something. So that's when I got certified in personal training. And that's when like the whole fitness thing came into my life because I was just so amazed by what the human body can do and how little things can change in people's lives in the best way possible. So I think that that kind of changed my life in terms of, I mean, where I am now, of course, in the fitness industry. But after that whole thing happened, I went to Alex and I was like, can I skate again? Like, that's all I want to do. I was like, can I skate again? Like, I'm not done with my chapter. Like, I feel like it was a comma at the end of it. Like, I needed a period. So I was like, there's a comma at the end. I need a period. I got a second chance to walk. I'm able to move. How the hell can I get on the ice again? So at that point in time, like, we worked together, we found it out, and everything just kind of clicked. A lot of communication from past relationships in the sport and everything, and just opportunities. And I actually got a call in December of right before the pandemic hit. And it was one of a girl I used to play with. She was actually playing in Hungary at the time, but switching to Norway to play professional over there. So she's like, we're looking for a defenseman. I'm like, there's a reason for this. Like, there's a reason I'm getting this phone call. Like, if I get hit again, I'm paralyzed again. Listen, I made sure once I can do it again, but I will. This opportunity's there. I have the opportunity to find my period at the end of my sentence and just go. And at the end of the day, it was like not just for me, it was for the people that don't have the opportunity to do that again. And I actually am very close friends with Mikey Nichols. If you don't know who he is, he suffered a very significant injury and one of the most amazing humans, the best outlook on life, and just a ray of sunshine of everything he got handed to. And this kid came out on top smiling. And I actually wore number 23 in Norway, which was his number. And I was like, I didn't even get to pick the number. And I was like, this is a meaning of something. I'm like, I don't know what it is. I don't, but I'm gonna run with it. But that's what the whole situation with that afterwards happened. And then the pandemic hit.
Mm.
And we got sent home from Norway. And I was like, listen, I got my period. I can't complain.
So, a few questions in different directions here, and maybe I'll ask them from the least serious to the most serious. I This is so random. I've been on this kick of I don't watch a lot of Netflix. I don't watch a lot of anything because I like to create, I like to build, I like to do. But I have been watching these travel videos, and I came across this hour-long travel video about Norway,
Oh my
and
God.
it looks like the most beautiful place in the
You have
world.
to go. It's
Yeah.
literally voted the happiest living ever. And the coolest thing that I thought that I took from living in Europe is like you have a conversation like me and you right now. Not once would come up of our career. Like when
Mm.
you get to know someone, they'll be like, what do you do? But they don't mean it like, what do you do for a living? Because that doesn't define you
Mm,
there. It's more of like, what do you do for fun? Like, what makes you Joe? Like, what
mm,
makes you you? And I was like, that's the coolest thing. Like, I feel like in America here, you kind of get judged, or like you have a conversation just building off of your career, your work, and that kind of defines who you are as a person. But in reality, that's not who you are. Like, that's what you do of like your career and you're building your life and everything, but that's not who you are as a person. And I thought that was like one of the most beautiful things of like almost all the conversation that I had with a bunch of people in Norway, Sweden, like those types of places. But let me tell you, the Northern Lights, book your trip right now.
this is a sign we're going at some point. My wife and I will be there. But let me ask you this: so when that conversation happens and you're exposed to that for the first time, and someone says, "What do you do?" And maybe you respond and you tell them, "Hey, I play hockey," and they say, "Well, what do you do outside of hockey, or what do you do as a person? Who are you?" What is your response, or what did you build as your response to that question?
It took a couple conversations for me to figure out what to say, honestly. It was very awkward, a lot of awkward silence in the middle of that. But I answered in the terms of like, I am a very happy, I'm a ray of sunshine. I love to travel. I love to see people smile. I love to make an impact on every person that I encounter. So if that means like make them smile, compliment something, like you never know what someone's going through. And if I can just leave a little bit of like smile, sparkle, sunshine on someone, I know that I'm done something in my day, my week, my month, my year, whatever it is. So I mean, like impacting people is huge for me, especially like working at Alpha Fit Club. Like the little things, just it's just those type. That's who I feel like I am. I love helping people. I love traveling. I love smiling. I love just having a good time and just finding the best out of a lot of situations.
Mm. Do you feel like you are that way because of what you've been through?
100%. I feel like I had to hit rock bottom to realize, and I think that that was my rock bottom. I mean, there may be another one in my life. There's a long life ahead, I hope. But I feel like at that point in time that I took a lot of things for granted. I was very selfish, was very stubborn. I just was bleh. Like I was just
Mm,
not that person. I think I was not, I judged a lot of things. It's not where I wanted to be. And I'm actually very thankful that that happened to me at such a young age that I always say that like I'm such an old soul. I think this
mm,
is like my last time around in this planet because I just, the way that I look at things, I just, or I'm not made to be in this time of world.
mhm,
But I think that that helped me get to where I am in terms of everything. I think that everyone needs to physically go through something. And I think that even helping people, like you have to go through something on your own. Like you can't control what other people are doing, even if it's like a friend that's going through such a hard time and you have to let them go through those gears. Because in
mhm,
reality, they're going to keep going to back to where they are in that situation and not grow and learn things about themselves or things that they need to change in their life and those types of things to get to that point. And so, like, I'm going to be the cheerleader of my friend. I'm going to be there for them when they need to cry. I'm going to scream, whatever it is. But they need to go through those emotions and those traumas and those things to get to where they are to be the best person that they need to be.
mm,
And I think that that's what I had to do. And I felt so bad that I probably like brought some people down. Like, I couldn't even, like, I owe my parents the world. Like, the things that I probably put them through during that injury, like, I don't even know. Like, those things that you never want to see, let alone your own child go through. I mean, I'm not a parent, so I don't really know at this point in time in my life, but I couldn't even imagine. And my mom was always smiling. My dad was always smiling. They were never negative. They never wanted me to be like have negative vibes on such a negative thing that happened. And I think
mm,
I owe them a lot of things. That's the same thing with Alex and Parabolics because like they brought life into a lot of people's dark days. And
mm.
I think that that's what I took from those negative things, that I have the opportunity to make an impact on, be a light in someone's day. And that's my end goal.
Yeah. I hear a lot of my own story and your story. And the really fascinating part about this and all the conversations I get to have on this podcast is that even on the surface, stories sound wildly different and almost unrelatable at times. I think we all do experience the same set of human emotions. And I do think that we need to go through the hard things, and that those hardships and adversities are often very formative times in our lives. There are two quotes I'll share. One is from Haruki Murakami, who said, "Despite your best efforts, people are going to be hurt when it's time for them to be hurt." And I think that
Okay.
goes right. It's like it's harsh, but it's also true. We can't control what happens in this life. And if it's somebody's turn or time to be hurt and to experience pain, that's going to happen. And we can be there for them, but we might not be able to take it away for them. And then the other quote, which I think sums up beautifully this chapter of your life and who you are now, is from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who said, "The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen." Right.
100,000%.
Yeah.
100%.
So if we were to rewind and you could just have a minute with Sarah pre-injury, still playing hockey at a super high level before the hit, and you knew what she was going to go through, what would you say to her if you just had a minute?
I always say this, that I literally wouldn't go back to like change anything. I would just go back to relive a couple moments again. Because again, I think I took a lot for granted. I think that a lot of kids, a lot of people go through the motions of life, and especially the way that society is nowadays, and they don't like stop and just live in the moment. And I got a tattoo when I was 18 years old, and it's so cliche and I regret it, but I'm like, kind of gives you that remembrance, like live for the moment. And I'm like, it's true. Like everyone gets caught up in social media, on their phones, on anything else. And like I get it. I'm a big picture person because I love going back and like reliving something just because of that, or like a song or something. But I think a lot of people don't just like keep your eyes up. Like just keep your eyes up, keep your breath intact, and just enjoy what you have, because you never know what can happen. You never know what you're going to want to change. And what's the quote? It's like, you never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory.
Mm,
And I think that that's huge. And that's what I try to like not look at nowadays, is like, I don't want something to become a memory for it to be valuable to me. I want it to
mm.
be valuable in that memory time and in that moment. And I think that that's the look I need to look at a lot of things that I do. Because again, you never know when that moment's going to change. You never know when things are going to be different. You never know if you're going to have that moment again. So it's just embracing the moment, enjoying the moment, and continuing on.
Yeah, there's a great Walt Whitman quote that goes, "Keep your face toward the sunshine, and the shadows will fall behind you," which I think speaks to the idea of having your head up and finding the things to be grateful for. And we do all have them all the time. And yet it's so easy to get caught up in the distractions and the noise of life that we don't see them. And we can't truly be where our feet are, which I think is a reminder that we all need probably multiple times every single day.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%.
So, with all that being said, that was the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle. On the flip side, what's the hardest thing that you've ever done on purpose, and why did you choose to do that thing?
The hardest thing I had to choose. Oh, wow, that's hard. Um, I think the opportunity to go play hockey in Norway. I literally got the phone call and I had to be there in 48 hours. So I had a job. I was working at Orange Theory. I was doing personal training. I was like just kind of going through the motions of life. And then I had to quit my job. I had to get on a plane. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't speak the language. Um, I just went, and I remember the same thing you said, your feet plan and everything. When my mom and dad dropped me off at the airport, I was like, I cannot turn back, because if I turn back, I will go back and I will cry and I'll be like, I can't do this. But I got a knot in my stomach, just keep my feet moving to JFK. I got on the plane and it was one of the best experiences of my life. And I think that a lot of people get kind of twisted once they get that uncomfortable feeling. And as soon as you kind of embrace that uncomfortable feeling and kind of like, wow, this is gonna make me the best human I can be, instead of just keep continuing on through their comfort zone, that's when you're gonna change as a human, and that's when you're gonna be the best person you can be, because it's like running in neutral constantly. Like, I'm on neutral, I'm here, I'm just kinda coasting, and that's not where you want to be. Because I mean, a lot of people thrive in their comfort zone, but then they step out of it and they can see their potential, and that's when they kind of get the itch. They kind of like a drug. They're like, oh my God, I got this. I can continue to go. Like, what can I do now? Like, I can do anything. And that's such a beautiful thing. And when people can get to that point in time in their head, in their mind, it's unstoppable.
Mm. So, how much of that discomfort that you were experiencing was due to the fact that you were leaving everything you knew and going to a place that was foreign to you versus fear that hockey wouldn't work out the way that you hoped it would, or that something terrible could happen again? Was that part of it?
That was never a thought in my mind. That's
Mm,
crazy. If a lot of people go to, you're like, why the heck would you do that again? I was like, because I can. That's why. Like, I can. Like, I have the opportunity. Like, me doing this, I'm still outdoing of like 90% of people doing. Like, and that's what is a lesson in life. Like, you're gonna fail after hockey. Like, you're gonna fail a lot of times. And like, if I fail again, guess what? I'm still having the opportunity to do it again. So
mm.
like, failure isn't your ending. It's just kind of like a boost in the direction of either a curveball that you're going to go, a different route you're going to take, or maybe you got to go straight on into something else and continue to do that. But it's wild.
So I heard this phrase this week that goes, failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. And I think that's a testament to,
I think I read that somewhere too.
yeah, it's been circulating the internet, and it really hit me, just the phrasing. I think it's something that we understand, but to be said in those words, it really clicked. And I think it's hard for a lot of people because they see falling down or they see failing as a period, when it's actually it can be a comma in their story.
Yes, for sure. Most of the time it is.
Yeah. And so, with that being said, do you have any failures as it pertains to your hockey career? And let's take the injury out of it, but were there failures? Were there periods where you proverbially fell down and failed?
Oh, 100%. A lot of them. I went to boarding school in Lake Placid, New York, and I left everything again. I literally, a week before school started, I quit my team I was about to be on. I was going to Catholic school. I was like, sorry, I'm not going back to high school here. And I packed everything and drove up and moved away from home at 16 years old. And my mom was like, okay, bye. Like, have fun. You're at school now. Like, I'll see you in Thanksgiving or whatever it is. But after that season, that was probably like the big outlook of like growing up to me. We had actually five different coaches in that one season. They all got fired. A lot of them were getting fired. There was a lot of financial problems with the school. It was actually an Olympic training school, so it's all winter sports focused. And they had like luge, bobsledding, ice hockey, downhill skiing, and we would do our sports in the morning, and then we'd go to school in the afternoon, and then we'd have like study hall at night, and then we'd all travel on weekends to our events, sports, and games. And it was the coolest thing. I mean, we were all had the same goal, we all had the same mindset, and I'm still, what, 10, 11 years and year later now, I'm still very close with probably a lot of them, which is the coolest thing. But after that year and that season, the school actually closed down.
Hmm.
So we were all kind of lost and like had no idea what to do. No one had a team, no one had anything. Like, we literally just spent all this money to go to boarding school. We all moved away from home. We were people from China, Sweden, like all over the globe, like not just in America, like everyone. No one knew what to do. There was only like seven seniors that were graduating. All of us else were like, okay, now we have to find somewhere else to go. And I think at that point in time, I was like, what do I do? Like, is this the end of my career? Is this the end of sports? Like, what's next? So I think that was another time in my life that I was kind of like, okay, it's time to grow up. It's time to put on the big girl pants. And if I want to continue in this sport, I mean, I dropped everything in my life to go do it. I didn't have a normal high school. I never went to prom. I never went to like football games. I never did anything like that. So it was just grind. It was like I loved the drive. I loved the game, and I would do anything to continue to play. And that's what it was. And I just had to keep that mindset on my mind to continue to do it. And I guess it worked.
Is it crazy to look back at all of that dedication and sacrifice from such a young age, or does it all make sense in hindsight?
I mean, it's crazy to look at, but it also all makes sense. I kind of, again, I wouldn't ever change anything. I loved it. And it was kind of like, I always say this too, that the biggest thing about being an athlete is I read somewhere in some book, and maybe I don't remember who wrote it, but they say like an athlete dies two times in their life, when they die in their sport and they're no longer playing, and then when they actually leave this earth. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, that is the most like craziest thing, because it's so true. Like I feel like Sarah Martoni, like my whole entire life, that was a hockey player. Like in my town, like anything Sarah Martoni, that's a hockey player. Like that was my personality trait. Like I literally was like, that's the hockey player. And I was like, okay. And then as soon as that was over, like the injury, like I kind of got it on the injury side of it. And I was like, who am I? Like, like, I'm not the hockey player. I mean, I was at that point in my life. That was my chapter in my life. And I guess that chapter of my book is closing now. And I think it was just like a culture shock that I was like, oh my God, like now I have to start a new chapter, figure out who I am, and kind of just put the period at the end of that sentence. And it's like, it's a beautiful thing, but it also makes you want to vomit in every point in time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So the period is on the paper. What is this next sentence starting to express? What is this next sentence?
I mean, you're very close to Sam Tooley as a friend, a beautiful mentor to a lot of people, and has done amazing things. I said in the beginning, I just got promoted to head coach at Wayne. So I've been at Alpha Fit Club I opened the Verona studio with them. I'm almost at like 1,000 classes at the facility itself. I mean, my goal at the end of the day is to continue to grow in this industry. It's a beautiful and horrible industry at the same way or same time. I just continue to grow as a person, to make a change in people's life, to continue to try to make this world a kind of healthier, better place, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, kind of thing, and kind of just impacting people one day at a time, and trying to make my mark on this earth and kind of leave my story.
Mm. You are definitely making a mark, and sharing stories like this is what the podcast is all about. And speaking of stories, I've recommended Sam's episode to almost everybody that I've spoken with. Episode 2 of this podcast, one of the most powerful conversations I've ever had. And I think the world is better off for people like that, for people like you, and for conversations like this. So thank you.
Of course. I think you're doing such a beautiful thing, so don't stop. Keep the foot on the gas, my friend.
Oh, you know I will. So all right. So this is the Project Endure podcast, and I ask every guest the same question. But when you hear the word endurance, what does that mean to you?
It's a funky word for me because I've never been an endurance athlete. Like hockey is short, sweet, to the point. We're doing 45-second, 90-second
Mhm.
shift. I'm thriving on those short things. I think endurance is just like finding what you're capable of and running with it. If
Mhm.
that's like even fitness, like you're running that marathon, like you got to keep your heart rate in check. You need to keep your breath on pace, and you know that you got to control what you can control to finish that race. And I think that in terms that's in life too. Like you got to keep your breath, you got to keep your mind. It doesn't matter what you're doing on the outside if nothing's wrong. Like if things are wrong on the inside, like you can continue your workouts, you can continue eating healthy, and that's great. But guess what? Your brain is the most powerful thing at the end of the day. Your body's going to keep going, but the mind is going to hit a brick wall at some point in time. So I think at that point in time, it's endurance in your head, it's endurance in your mind, and just keeping yourself sane and keep going.
I couldn't agree more. And the question that pops into my mind for people listening to this podcast: how do you fuel your mind with the right kind of things? How do you build resilience up there? And I'm asking for you. Are there certain things you're consuming, certain things you're doing, so on and so forth?
I think that you are who you surround yourself with. I think your circle is huge as I got older. I think that as we get older, we kind of like grow in friendships, relationships, and such like that. But I think that as long as you keep your circle strong, the people around you, your atmosphere, your community, and the things that you can lean on the good days, the bad days, and everything in control, you're going to do nothing but succeed. And I think that you have to be able to understand that you cannot control other people, but you can control what you do to other people and how you react to other people. And that's going to continue as your mind and continue to grow and keep you sane at the end of the day.
Yeah. And, to your point, I think the best way to attract good friends is to be a good friend to other people. And I think sometimes we have to be the ones to initiate that in a world where people can be closed off and maybe not as open or vulnerable as we need. And so, if you can be the first one to take that step and to put yourself out there and to hold the door, send that message, go out of your way, make someone smile, the world becomes a friendlier place. But sometimes you have to initiate.
100%. There was a video I watched the other day, and it was like this guy that always loved to hold the door open for people, and he would never let, or other people would never hold the door open for them. And then there was this
Mm.
one day that he didn't hold the door open for this woman, and the woman asked him and was like, why didn't you hold the door for me? And he goes, why would I do that? Because no one else holds the door for me. And he goes, well, if you hold the door for one other person, guess what? They're going to remember that and they're going to continue to hold the door for other people. So if
Mhm.
you can like make that chain reaction to get that click in someone's head that maybe to see the good in something and do something better, maybe compliment, oh, like you have a great smile and you're like your shirt is great. That is going to leave an impression on someone for the rest of their life. And on those bad days when someone's down, they're out there smiling and it's because of you. So it just continued on with that.
Yeah, I would make that actionable and say anybody listening to this podcast, no matter what time of day it is, no matter what you have going on, make it a point to give a genuine compliment to somebody in your life, to hold that door, to pick up the piece of garbage, to just go out of your way and leave a person or place better than you found it. And if we could all create that habit and do even just one thing every single day, I mean, the world would be such a better place.
Oh, 1,000%. 100%. It's crazy. The little things just add up to the big ones and it'll be explosive at that point.
Yes, it will. Now, Sarah, this podcast is being listened to by people all over the world in different seasons of life, going through different things. But the one common denominator is that as humans, at some point, we all struggle. We all go through hard things. And there's someone out there listening, I'm sure, who's going through a really hard thing right now. Maybe they chose to do it, or maybe it chose them. And either way, if somebody just doesn't know what to do or where to go, or they feel like maybe there's not a whole lot of hope, and you got the chance to speak some encouragement and guidance into their life, what would you say to that person listening?
Honestly, I would say take a deep breath, take a step back and look around because life's not that hard. Like it's hard, but if you see the simple things in life, it's such a beautiful thing. Like you get to walk, you have a home over your head, you have a beautiful someone that loves you, you have a friend, like you can drink water on your own, like you're not coughing, paralyzing yourself. Like the little things, like just see the simplicity in life and you'll be okay. It's not, again, it's not the last whistle. You're okay. And just keep going until that last whistle. And at that point in time, that's all you got.
Now, for people who maybe didn't grow up playing sports with a whistle, I played football and I get that. I understand that reference. Can you just describe a little bit more about what that looks like to play to the whistle? Because I love it.
Oh yes, 100% is my favorite thing to say. So especially in hockey, I mean football, like those types of things, those types of sports. If you're in like a contact sport and anything, the referee blows their whistle and that's when you're supposed to stop. So my old coach, when I was younger, you play till the whistle, you're dropping bodies in front of the net, you're protecting your team, and you're going until that whistle is blown. And that's how I look at life. I'm like, you're dropping bodies, you're figuring it out, and you're going to continue to go until that damn whistle blows. So that's my mindset of sports aspect of your whistle, you're blowing that. That referee is going to tell you what to stop. And guess what? It's not telling you to stop until you leave this earth.
Man, that's powerful. And so, Sarah, if people resonated with the things you said, if they want to find a way to take a class with you or just connect with you, where's the best place for people to reach out and follow along?
You can follow me on my Instagram, Sarah. I think it's Sarah period Martoni, or come hang at Alpha Fit Club. It's gonna be global soon. Watch out. And I'm in the North Jersey area, so come hang out. We're at Verona and Wayne. There's a Westfield location. Go on the website, contact Sam Tooley, and come hang out.
I love it. And I'll link your Instagram to make it easy in the description. And Sarah, just thank you again. It's crazy that this has come full circle, and also full circle, but not the end of a circle. It's kind of the beginning of a friendship, and I'm super excited for that.
I appreciate your time. Thank you for everything. Keep doing this. It's an amazing, beautiful thing, and people need to be more like Joe.
Right back at you, Sarah.
Appreciate that.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.